I'm more upset with Greg Biffle. He's the most unprofessional little scaredy cat I've ever seen in my life. He wouldn't even fight me like a man after. He needs a freaking whooping. I'm going to give it to him.
Good day, race fans, and welcome to the Intentional Wreck Podcast. The podcast made by race fans for race fans, from the casuals to the lifelong gearheads. My name is Jeff, and I'm here with my fellow hosts Corey and Finn, and you can find us on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio under the name Intentional Wreck. You can also find us on Twitter under the handle at intwreckpod. That's at INTWRECKPOD. Also, we now have a mailbag. Please submit your mailbag questions to the address listed in the show notes and description, and we'll answer them as soon as we can. Fellas, Atlanta, what do you guys think? How'd this race go?
That ending was fantastic, and they managed to do it without a caution right at the very end of the race.
That's about the only good thing we got out of this race.
Yep, pretty much.
Oh, man. I mean, again, it was a fun finish, so it gets credit for that, right? We've had green, white checkers to pretty much end all the final three races, right? Late cautions. And this finally gives us a situation where all of the different strategies pan out. Granted, it is a super speedway plate race, so there aren't like fuel strategies or tire strategies. But, you know, I thought it was interesting. I mean, there was tire strategy at the end, right? A couple two-tire guys, couple no-tire guys, and Almirola blew a tire, and didn't he take out Larson? So I guess he was your favorite of the day. But, no, I mean...
Anybody that takes out Larson is immediately my favorite for the day.
But I think one of the things after following up our episode with power rankings, you know, I think if anybody's flying up the boards right now, it's the 6-car, man. Such an impressive race, holding off both lanes without wrecking them. That's not easy. Normally you see a block like that on the 2-lane super speedways and somebody gets turned, usually the person blocking. So,
and how about a name that wasn't even on your top 15 showing up at the end of the race, Tyler Reddick? He kind of came out of nowhere there at the very end and was up there hunting.
Well, Tyler's
at the very end of the race.
He held his own in a way that I don't think we've seen him do quite this year. We expected to see him do a lot this year, and I feel like this was kind of a coming out party for Reddick. We were waiting to see when it was going to happen, and I think this was it.
I completely agree. Like, he didn't belong on that list last week at all, and then it's like, okay, well, you can't count him out. Like that guy hunting there at the end. But yeah, what to your point about Keselowski, dude, that clinic that Keselowski and Logano put on the end of that race, that's why I watch right there. Those guys doing that stuff at 175 miles an hour is just
right.
It's unfathomably difficult.
Logano pulled an Allen Iverson crossover up at $180, you know, with a bunch of cars breathing down his back, just hoping it would stick, hoping that he would get what he wanted, and hoping that Brad would respect him enough. And it's early in the season. There will be another Atlanta race. If that race happens in the fall, I don't know if they exactly show the same patience. You know, RFK is looking to just get good finishes. You know, Buescher was doing fairly solid before he got caught up in a wreck. But definitely a fantastic race. Just tough. It does look like there's a lot of stuff over the weekend about the bottom lane. In fact, I was watching the truck race, and, you know, they come to the choose cone, and I think it was 9 to 15 cars all chose the outside lane before somebody chose the bottom lane. That's how rough this bottom lane is. Very similar situation in the Xfinity Series race. So going into Sunday, I was a little concerned. What's going to happen? Is this bottom lane already gone? You know, this is a brand new racetrack, right? Or a brand new configuration, brand new surface. So if the grip's already gone on the bottom lane, I'm a little concerned. But it looked like once they got hooked up, the bottom lane was able to make some moves. And we saw plenty of guys kind of drive from the back to the front. Bell's the name of a guy. You know, he spun out qualifying. He drove back to the front. And arguably, I don't know if you guys saw this, but there's a bunch of pictures on the internet that say he actually finished second.
There's a few things going around. I was to your point regarding the inside lane. One of the things that I was noticing there, especially down the stretch, that was really interesting, and it involved Bell because he was definitely a huge proponent of this towards the end of the race. Was the outside lane provided a lot of option to kind of lock in and to actually push your guy in front. Bell did this numerous times. I mean, at least 2 or 3 times in those last 5 laps. It was Chris Bell that was specifically making it a point to get into the back of whoever he was behind and trying to push him up so they could get speed. There was a lot of times there at the very end where you were seeing these guys at the outside lane that were going, okay, we're not dropping. It's time to make a move. Whoever's in the front better get your ass up there, or I'm going to push your ass up there. So let's go,
right. And that inside lane with those, Finn was sitting there at the end just going, well, this is Ryan Blaney doing Ryan Blaney things. It couldn't push Logano to the front, right? So Logano, in order to, you made a comment about. I
was mad at the 2 and the 12.
Well, right, yeah.
I was mad. I was just screaming at the Penske cars, mainly Austin Cindric, because Bowman is right. First of all, just to be clear here, all right, before you guys and anybody else starts going, wow, Finn's yelling at the Penske cars, this is after 5 minutes of screaming at Alex Bowman.
That's true.
For being non-aggressive and letting the Toyota of Reddick and Bell get under him. I'm so tired of watching the 48 be in good positions. He was on the, literally, second car on the high lane. Just hold your spot, dude. There's no other room. How Bowman allows a whole car length of space underneath him is beyond me. And dude, you had no Chevy friends with you, dude. And the Toyotas were going to stay with each other, so I was already mad about that. Then he cycles back to 20th, gets in the bottom lane, somehow gets behind these Penske's, and Cindric cannot drive this race car straight. And he would get disconnected from the 12 and the 2, and I was just like, I'm just watching this like, please, just turn the guy. Just turn the 2. He's a second. He's basically a rookie. Just get him out of there, Alex.
That might be the angriest I've ever heard you during a race.
During a NASCAR race?
A whole, yeah. Like, we've watched a whole season of NASCAR races together, pretty much start to finish now. You were salty at the end of that race.
It doesn't always come out when he's watching a race. Like when we're all like kind of hanging out, like I'll yell at Denny or the JGR or the 2311 guys, and I'll like yell about other drivers and things like that. Like, you know, the emotion will get out there. Finn isn't one that often lets his like emotion fly when he's watching a race. This may have been the most that we've seen him like let out that frustration with his own driver and frustration with other drivers. And I think the whole reason is that you could see the potential. You could see it's like you're watching the gleam close as the race keeps going longer and getting towards the end, and you're just watching the opportunities in the window just start to shut.
He did everything he could. Like, he just stayed held. Like, so Bowman, obviously, he's the Daytona qualifying GOAT. I don't understand why. Yes, it's 80% Hendrick engine, but something about Alex Bowman, he can put that car on the front row whenever he wants to, and he wrecks out of every super speedway race. Every fucking race. The 48 is in the wall, sideways, and he protected it. He got through. He actually, I think it was the one that Larson's got spun, he actually got hit in the right rear, and I was just like, oh my God, please be okay, because I know it's going to be bad. It's going to be like he got hit in the right rear and his engine gave out. Like, it's going to be that. It's the 48. And, so he's finally in the front. And, it's a small car team. You don't really get to see the 48 up front all that often,
This man, I admire a lot of things about Finn, and him bringing me into NASCAR. He has an objectivity about him that he does a pretty good job of keeping under wraps. Or like that's I'm sorry, I got that backwards. He wears his objectivity, but he hides his overt fanhood of Bowman and Hendrick. He's a fan. We know he's a fan. Right. But he can normally watch a race, enjoy a race, and kind of just take it as it comes. And what will be, will be. But not this weekend.
And this is not a direct comparison. This is not a direct comparison, right? But you think about all your friends that are Pats fans, okay? And you hear them start complaining about Mac Jones and quarterback play in New England, and what do? You roll your eyes, and you go, shut up.
Yes.
You hit Tom Brady for 20 years. Shut up.
Yeah.
It's worse.
Jeff and I have a friend that's a Packers fan, and it's just a hilarious thing that he sits there and we're going to get another quarterback, blah, blah, blah. It's like, dude, you're in a chat with 6 Washington Commanders fans. Shut up.
Dude,
like,
right.
No one wants to hear it.
And that's how I feel. I like Bowman, and not to get too long, but whenever, last year or a couple years ago when the 48 was being vacated and they hadn't even announced Larson to the 5 yet, right? We didn't know who was going to take over the 48 car. Brad Keselowski was actually a name that was being thrown in the loop. Corey LaJoie was a underdog favorite for that. I don't think anybody expected, and I believe Byron was maybe considering going over to the 48 because he was a big Jimmy Johnson fan growing up. And then you bring Larson in the 24 because him and Gordon are like, they're basically in love with each other. So,
you said Bowman had a Chastain thing after the race, right?
Yeah. So since we're on the topic with Bowman, so Bowman was riding around. He's got the Penske's in front of him that are a cylinder down apparently because they can't fucking keep up with what's going on outside of Logano. They donated their extra cylinders to Logano, who was driving a V10 on the weekend, just absolutely ripping. So he's got Chastain behind him. And the story is that Ross Chastain told his spotter to go to the 48 spotter and say, if you go, I'm with you. We're Chevys. I got you. If you make a move, I'm going with you. So coming out of the final, I don't know if it was coming out of turn 2, going down the backstretch, or going into the final turn, Cindric slid up a bit. Bowman went underneath him. Chastain immediately goes middle lane behind Cindric and completely abandons the 48, who goes from like 6th to outside the top 10. And Bowman went over to him after the race, and they have on video Bowman's like sitting outside of the car just talking to Ross, and Ross is sitting there going, I deserve it. I'm a bad driver. I did the thing on purpose. My bad. The fucking Ross Chastain's fucking things, where he just owns it, but he doesn't, he like says, yep, I probably deserved it. But he doesn't change what he does every race. I didn't even hate Ross Chastain. Now I'm an anti-Ross. We all meet on Tuesdays, the anti-Ross Chastain party, support group. So...
Well, he had an incident with my guy Harvick as well.
I don't think, and Harvick didn't.
I don't think so.
First of all, I know Harvick likes him, and so I don't think that. Yeah, with what Harvick said, I don't think it just looked like it got air on him. So I wouldn't be concerned. That's just super speedway racing.
He didn't actually touch him.
No,
yeah,
I think the broadcast was making way more out of it.
It's Ross. It's one of those things. It's
Even
the
if
one.
he touched him, he barely touched him.
It's a reputation call, man. We're at the point, like, whether people like it or not, we've reached a point with Chastain and with the short time that he's been racing Cup that at this point, like, people are watching him and almost expect somebody to get turned, or they almost expect something weird to happen, when their guy gets up in front or gets around Chastain. And it's one of those kind of things. And this is coming from somebody whose driver has had plenty of their own issues with Ross, especially over the course of last year. But at the same time, there is a reputation that has followed him now where, people are watching and they are somewhat expecting these kind of things to happen. And he's got plenty of time to try and, forgive the expression here, to turn this around.
Right.
But he's got, he can do it. This is the thing that gets me about Ross Chastain. The guy is a hell of a driver. And he's going to be around for a very long time. Yeah, and he's going to be good. And he has the potential to be very, very good. Yeah. So he can get out of the, reputation or funk or whatever you want to call it. And honestly, if he keeps winning races or keeps getting top 5s, it's going to get to a point where that reputation is only going to go so far compared to what his success record might be. Yeah. So let's see what he does.
Yeah,
he's definitely so far the king of play stupid games, win stupid prizes.
Yeah, they didn't wreck the 48, but Bowman went as far as to tweet about it, and Bowman did an Instagram story where he's just sitting there and he's like, "Yep, this is what happened." He said he was going to go, then they bailed on me, so we'll remember it next time. We know who our friends are, and that was that. So it didn't really sound like Bowman's looking to turn, and that's not Bowman's game. Yeah, I mean, you got to catch the car in front of you to turn them, so that's not really the 48's game at the moment. We're just worried about consistency. We'll get a win every here and there, but not even the biggest shenanigans of the weekend. I want to jump you guys over to Josh Williams, Xfinity driver. So one of the big proponents of our show and a teammate of ours in our iRacing league, Silver Thunder. Well, we won't use his government name. Silver Thunder. He's a friend of mine. He's a Twitch streamer, Kick streamer now. So here's your plug for kick.com/Silver Thunder. Fantastic streamer, fantastic beer shotgunner, and a complete Chase Elliott fan. But he is he's actually a sponsor for the Josh Williams 92 for DGM Racing. That's why I'm bringing it up. So I say this, I bring it up because this is what happened, in case you guys didn't know. So my understanding is they got some damage in the wreck in an Xfinity race, and they went and taped things up, right? And then while under caution, while they were driving around, some extra tape fell, or some of that tape or stuff came off of the car onto the track, forcing NASCAR to extend the caution. And NASCAR didn't like that too much. They had to bring somebody out. And, I'm going to be honest with you, they've extended cautions before in the past. It's not a big deal. They decided to tell Josh Williams that they're parking him for the race, for having the caution be extended. He didn't like that, so he parked it as NASCAR instructed at the start-finish line, then proceeded to get out of his car, walk across the infield, and straight to the NASCAR hauler, where he spent the rest of the race. So, Denny Hamlin immediately piped up on Twitter, said he'd pay his fine. NASCAR ended up not fining him, but he ended up getting a one-race suspension, which I think doesn't matter because I don't think he's racing this week anyways. Somebody else is slotted to drive the 92, I think, at the road course. I don't know. It's a small car team that they don't always have a ride for every race. And then again, how do your sponsors feel about this, right? Is this negative exposure? Is this positive exposure for a small team? He was on Door Bumper Clear, the NASCAR podcast, today or yesterday. So obviously, like, his name's up, which means the team's name's up, which means they've got fans. I'm sure they're getting some merch sales as a result of it. He looks just like Kenny Rogers or Kenny Powers.
Kenny Powers?
Yeah.
He does look like Kenny Powers.
He looks like Kenny Powers. Yeah, and I got to meet him when we went to Bristol last year. We were guests of the DGM team, VIPs, and Josh and Alex Labbe, Labbe. He's a Canadian driver that races on the team. Fantastic guys, fantastic. I can't say I really talked to Mason, who's kind of the main driver on that team. He was really busy. They had some issues going on in the car, so he was focused on that. But I mean, everybody on that team was extremely nice. So if you're watching this and you're wondering who do you support in the Xfinity Series, do some of those smaller teams, man. Support those guys. That's a grind, man. Those guys are going through it with minimal money. They're doing it because they love racing. So, they had an opportunity to get a good finish, and it didn't work out for them. But Silver said that he's stoked. He loves them even more. He wants to put more money into the organization if he can, because
100%.
Yeah. So
I love guys like with personality, right? Like in the Cup Series, it seems like you get a lot of like, well, I'm just here to race and I'm gonna win, and it's it's everything's kind of like the company line and prim and proper. Right. This was not that. This was F you. Check my big giant brass balls. I'm gonna park it on the start finish line and walk away and give the deuces to the tower. And like, I love it, dude. I love it. Give me all. It's like something Marshawn Lynch would do. Right. You know what I mean? Like to take it to that where it's like, give me the guys with some personality who don't take themselves too seriously. I am automatically rooting for guys like that always. Josh Williams, you made a fan of me, but boy, the stones on that guy to just park in the middle of the track.
It's funny when Corey was first going to pick a driver, like when we were going to Richmond last year and he was trying to figure out who he wanted to root for. One of the things I suggested to him, I said, you might like Kyle Busch, man. And, at first he was kind of like, I don't know. I was like, first of all, he's the NASCAR version I'm just here so I don't get fined.
Yes.
Which you'll love in general, being a big fan of Marshawn Lynch.
I love Marshawn
Secondly,
Lynch so
it's a guy who does not hold back when someone puts a microphone in front of his face. And his attitude is very much of a either you love Kyle Busch or you hate Kyle Busch type of a person. Like, this feels like a personality that is right up your alley.
And if I'm being totally honest, I probably would have been a Kyle Busch fan last year had Finn's darling wife not already been, and I didn't want to match any of the other people that were at the race. So, so that kind of, I mean, I love the Fords as well, but he was in a Toyota for Joe Gibbs and all that. So, yeah.
So what
Kyle
you're
Busch,
saying is
love
it's
that
Finn's
guy.
wife's fault that you don't like Kyle Busch. That's
No,
what
I
you're
would say
saying,
it's Finn's fault because he probably pointed his wife to Kyle Busch.
I didn't realize I muted because of my kid, but I wasn't saying much. But I mean, if anything, I saved you because he's in a Chevy now.
That's true.
So
and you know what? I thought about that. I'd have had to drop him, dude.
Right, you'd have to drop him.
With the
So
Chevys.
I knew what you wanted. You don't want a trash talker. You want to watch a trash talk, but we got you the perfect driver. We ain't got nothing to worry about. We got you a good one. I was actually talking with our buddy about Christopher Bell earlier, and we were helping him out. And, just, again, the young talent, we were talking about Reddick earlier, the young talent in this league, in this series is fantastic. It's good stuff, and any of them are watchable. So the future of NASCAR is in a good spot. I was thinking about this. There was a thread on Reddit, and we don't need to go into it because it's top 10s and top 5s and less. But there was a guy talking about just where does Logano rank now? He's got 30-something wins. He's got 2 championships. Where does Logano rank above the greats? And I was commenting my opinion, and then halfway through I was like, how old is Joey Logano? And he's 32.
Oh yeah.
And that is so young.
Yep.
We forget because we tend to think of eras, right? And Joey Logano is absolutely in what we would all consider the Brad Keselowski, the Denny Hamlin, the Kyle Busch era. But we forget that he was 19 when those guys were 26, 27 years old. So now that they're entering the 40s and soon to be out of NASCAR, we forget that Joey Logano is just 32. He's just a year old. I think he's just a year older than Chastain, a year older than Corey LaJoie, So kind of crazy to me. So Logano, I mean, with the way championships work here, I don't know exactly what people always, that's the big talks everyone's talking about, but I was very shocked to see Logano. So Ford's got a bright future with him and Blaney. I was kind of expecting Logano to be on the tail end and that Blaney was going to have to be the future and Briscoe's going to have to be the future of Stewart Haas and things like that. But really, no, Logano's here to stay for probably another decade, I'd wager. I do want to shout out Corey LaJoie, though. He started that race 32nd, and he finished 4th.
That's intense.
He almost won this race last year in the fall. So did a fantastic job, kept it in one piece, got home with it. So, super good job by Corey. And then the final thing I wanted to show, because there's more chaos. So for the first time, NASCAR had a race at their NASCAR Brazil series, right? I don't know if they do ovals, but they're racing in Brazil, and I just want to share with you guys this chaos that occurred. So this guy gets wrecked out. I don't know where he was, but his car's parked and getting towed. There, but you can kind of see it right there. That's what I was looking for. Yeah, look, he's just standing in the middle of the track. Yo, this is bananas.
Is that not, if I'm not mistaken, I'm thinking Tony Stewart and Juan Pablo Montoya a few years ago? Was it those two?
Right, where
that is some Tony Stewart shit.
I've seen I've seen guys throw the helmets at the other drivers and things like that, but I don't think I've ever that's always under yellow, because the cautions occurred. I've never seen that in a live race, so there's that. So that I think that covers about all the chaos. Again, no major cautions, the Josh Williams thing, the Brazil thing. All in all, I do think Atlanta's got some work to do, especially if that bottom lane does fade and we get to just single file racing. But it wasn't the worst one. I just don't know if we need 6 super speedway races in NASCAR. But that's really my thoughts on Atlanta.
I think it was good to get our first Ford into the playoffs. That was my love to see Logano win. I'm a secondary-ish Logano fan. I root for anybody in a Ford and always like to see him win. He seems like a good guy. I mean, I don't know really, but he's fun to watch drive for sure. That move at the end was perfection.
Logano has got a reputation that Logano once had the same reputation that Ross Chastain had. And he was very nice off, and they call him Two-Face, and people, like, Logano's the super nicest guy off the track and on the track. I think Matt Kenseth once just, like, comes just straight up, like, it got so bad that they were, like, I think Matt Kenseth ended up getting parked for a race because he just intentionally wrecked Logano so bad. So, Logano's had his fair share of rub-ins, you know. I remember you remember the Martin Truex Jr. quote? You know, he won the battle and he lost, you know, he won the battle, but he's going to lose the war. I'll make sure of it going into the championship weekend. And Martin Truex basically guaranteed he was going to wreck Logano, and then Logano won the championship anyways. But,
oops.
Yep, there's some, your history for you. Jeff, you want to take us to Victory Lane? You're muted.
You're muted there, champ.
You muted.
Muted.
No, I went from unmuted to muted. All right,
there you go.
There we go. Now we'll just deflate all of the energy we had carrying into this.
Oh, don't worry. I'm about to bring it back up.
So now with that, let's take things over to Victory Lane. Corey won fantasy this week because Finn and I were a couple of dopes and set lineups and didn't do the one-on-ones, which is absolutely the only reason that Corey took another crown this week. So, but with that means Corey gets the floor to talk about what he likes, and hopefully it's a little bit shorter than last week, but let's see what he's got.
It will be, I promise. First, I'd like to say thank you to both of you two idiots for not making any. Well, Finn made half his picks. Jeff made no picks, and I will never, ever again remind either of you to make your picks. Thank you to Ford, my all Ford lineup: Cindric, Logano, Buescher, Harvick, Keselowski, and I put the 14 car in the garage, which is probably where it belongs these days. So I'm going to include everybody. I want to get some entries on the mailbag based on this. I want to include you guys, and I'm going to talk about something that I love talking about. I want to talk about food. Specifically, I want to talk about your dream tailgate. In honor of us going to Richmond in a couple of days, I want to do a quick hit talking tailgates. Jeff here is an expert. Finn, I know, loves to eat. He's our resident North Carolina barbecue guy.
He's just calling me fat.
Right? No, I mean, I'm way bigger than you, but so I want to ask both of you this question, and then I'm going to give you my answer. I got two questions, and we're going to be right through Victory Lane. Number one, I'm going to put it to you first, Jeff. What is one item that isn't at most tailgates that should be? Finn, I'm going to have the same question for you in a second. And then I have one more question. We're going to reverse the order. So on the next one, Finn is going to get hit with it quick, and Jeff will have time.
Well, think as much as you want. I control the post-production editing, Jeff. So take as much time as you need to get the answer you want.
Well, so when you say the item that is not most commonly at tailgates, I guess I'm trying
so
to
let me give you
that.
So I'll give you mine so you can understand, right? So for me, I think one thing that would be cool to have at a tailgate, that my dream tailgate was, you guys know they make outdoor pizza ovens now, right?
Yeah.
So what I would love to see is somebody pull up to the tailgate with the outdoor pizza oven, holding down fresh pizzas at the tailgate. How sick would that be? You don't often see pizza at a tailgate, especially not freshly made pizza at a tailgate. So
it's just a pizza bar tailgate. Like you just got a bunch of little trays laid out, and everybody you just make your own pizza and stuff.
So again, Jeff's still percolating over here, right? Finn's maybe thinking, I don't know if this is good or not. If you guys have any ideas for this, I'd love to hear them in the mailbag for next week.
Or just comment. There you go. Comment below. Comment below. There you go. What is the thing?
Yeah.
What do you want to see?
That's not at a tailgate. That should be at a tailgate.
Oh, man.
Finn, you got one?
No, man. Actually, pizza was originally in my mind, but I wasn't gonna say like pizza oven. I was just thinking like some kind of pizza.
So I'll give you another one.
Yeah, I got you. Jeff, if you need another second, Spam Musubi. There you go.
My God.
So
yes,
for those who don't know, I spent some time in Hawaii, about 4 years. That's where I met my lovely wife. And I promise I meant that. I didn't say after my lovely wife. Baby, hear that? No, Spam Musubi, if you guys don't know, it is essentially Spam cooked in. It's got like a glaze of like soy sauce, mirin, and brown sugar. You cook that in your And you could do teriyaki or whatever you want to do on your Spam. So you fry your Spam that way. And then you put that on a bed of rice that's maybe that thick, right? Maybe like that, right? Like that much rice, that thick, that much rice. You put the Spam on top, wrap it in seaweed, and it is a delicacy. It is a treat in Hawaii. It is fantastic on the go. It's fantastic for breakfast. Fills you up real well. So that is the go-to. And I actually did get to treat these guys to their first Spam Musubi experience, and
Finn put me on the Musubi, and it is
now it's a staple.
Unreal. It's every time we get together, I'll make it. Yeah, for sure.
So on the tailgate topic, the thing for me really is it's more broad. It's the sense that I like any time that someone decides to kind of take a little bit of a risk and go with a little bit unconventional. So some of the things that you guys were mentioning are definitely up there. I think that to me, like, I like to see someone go a little further than here's my standard, burgers and dogs, which there's nothing wrong with that, especially like for a large crowd and stuff like that. And, it's also cheaper and easier to do your thing as far as that's concerned. But I also like seeing somebody go and get a little unconventional with it. Like let's see some seafood get out of the tailgate. And I know there's plenty of folks that are probably a little further towards the coast, a little further down south that are going to more so, incorporate something like that in their tailgates. But I mean, honestly, when you think tailgates, you have a few specific things that you're thinking of. Usually burgers, dogs, wings, some form, maybe some other types of chicken or just some basics and general like finger foods and things like that. Right. Great. They make for a fine tailgate. That's perfectly fine. But I mean, I've been to some tailgates where I've watched people do morning tailgates and they're whipping up a full-fledged Bloody Mary bar. Hell yeah. Go get them.
Oh, yeah.
I love when somebody decides to break the salmon planks out and throw some fish out there and do something different with that. Yeah. I like to see someone go and get something different. I was at a Commander's tailgate a few years back with a few folks that, when I say went all out, it's an understatement. These people were not in the RV lot where they had a whole night to plan this. These people had literally converted an ambulance to a full-fledged burgundy and gold mobile, complete with TVs, cookware, everything else. And they did a whole hog roast at a 4-hour tailgate before a game. Like,
I love the
absolutely
ambition.
Incredible. These are the kind of things that it's like, just give me something unconventional. Give me something new. Give me something different. Throw something out there and be adventurous. If you want to learn how to cook or how to like expand that tailgate a little more, try throwing something out there that maybe you wouldn't normally throw on a grill and figure out how to do it. Understand how to do those kind of things. That's what I love to see at a tailgate, is when somebody wants to throw something new at me. Like I expect to go and have a hamburger or a hot dog or a brat or something like that at a tailgate. You know what I mean? Like when we went to Dover last year, I decided let me do some shrimp skewers and find ways to do.
That's why Jeff and Finn became friends.
To season them up. Right. I almost put Finn to sleep with the steak rolls and the
No, I did sleep. I was asleep in the back of Spence's truck at Dover. I was completely out.
I'm going to flip it around for the next question, right? Jeff mentioned the unconventional. Finn, you're going to start this one off, right? Last question. We're done with Victor.
That's cool. What's up?
What is one absolute must-have item for any tailgate or race for you? Gotta have it. Can't go to the race without it. What is it?
If you're not showing up with a 6-pack of the cheapest beer you can find, you can bring anything else you want, but at least 6 of the cheapest Natty Lights you got, you're not racing. This is the only sport where it is bring your own beer. Okay,
that's true.
You go to a football game. All right, it already costs you $700 through the door if you're bringing 3 people with you. All right, and you want tickets that aren't at like flying altitude, and then you go get something to drink. Like, I'm thirsty, and it's $20 Cokes. No, NASCAR is different. So if you've never been to a race before and you're wondering, what do we bring to drink? Beer and a lot of it. Because everybody could have a personal cooler and you could go. So obviously,
make sure it's soft-shelled.
Now, obviously, for food, for me, a must-have. Ooh, man, it's shrimp. It's shrimp. It's shrimp. I really don't care what meat you do. I don't care, dude. I'm obsessed, bro. Y'all gotta remember, I grew up in Georgia. I grew up in Louisiana with my brother. Like Cajun shrimp boils and like crab boils. That's like my life. So
I was debating that for Memorial Day this year, Finn. By the way,
are you going to be at the 600? Because I'm going to be in Charlotte for the 600.
Oh,
so,
that's right.
Yeah,
You're going to miss it, buddy.
I'll be gone. I'll be with the Silver Thunder. We'll be drunk on beer and shrimp. So, but no, that's it for me.
What about you, Jeff? What's your must-have? Gotta have it.
I'm a practical guy. So for me, the things that I find that I think are very important, like along with give me that unconventional item, you got to have something that's going to incorporate bread somewhere. You have to, because you got to soak up whatever booze that you're taking in, and to allow for some sustainability throughout the day. So for me, along with whatever, highlight item that you may be throwing out there on the grill, I need to have something I can put in a bun. I got to have something that's going to soak things up. I got to have something that's going to increase that sustainability. And, so that's important, because you're usually looking at a long haul. If you're like me, you like to get to that lot when that place first opens.
Early.
And chances are you probably got a beer in hand, as long as you're in the passenger seat. That's on your way in through the gate. So it's been a long term. It's a marathon, not a sprint, when you're actually doing real legit tailgating. So to me, a core necessity is making sure that you can get some things in you that are going to soak up that booze, that are going to soak things up and allow you to maintain throughout the day.
So I'm going to give you mine. And I think, Jeff, you'll probably be like, yep, that's Corey's thing. Give me that bag of original David sunflower seeds.
I think that ends up soaking up that,
Bro, you will never catch me at a sporting event without the David sunflower seeds. I don't know why. I just eat those things all day. So chances are you're going to catch me in Richmond. I'm going to have a cheap domestic beer in my hand, just like Finn said. I will probably have just eaten something on a bun, just like Jeff said. And then the David sunflower seeds are coming out. So that's my victory lane. I wanted to talk about food. I love tailgates. I got my second win in a row, and damn it, I wanted to talk about hot dogs and shrimp and beer. So here we are. That's victory lane. We are going to Coda.
Okay. All right. So this week, it's going to be another more modified history lane that we're moving into. And one of the things we're rolling into this week is our first road course of the season. So, for our folks that are listening for, new to the sport, not so much into NASCAR or coming in from, one of the other circuits or been around for a long time, we wanted to get kind of a primer and talk a little bit about road courses in general and talk about some of the new folks that are coming in and racing here on our first road race this year, and starting to talk about some of the drivers that are going to be in the car now that we may not see next week, so to speak, and kind of prime you a little bit for what to expect on a road course race. Finn, why don't you give us some more info here?
Yeah, absolutely. So one of the brief things I want to talk about going into this with the history of NASCAR is you may hear a term called start and park teams or back marker teams. And at the end of the day, while NASCAR is very diverse and there are a lot of teams that can compete, not every team can A, afford a full-time driver, or B, it knows that they're competing for points. They're trying to get the best result every single week, right? So what are those things that can happen? There used to be this thing called start and parking, where all you had to do was qualify for the race. You'd go out there, run the first lap, and park the car. Why? Because you were probably a small team that had one car, that there's no way you can wreck it, and just because you qualified, that means you count towards prize money, and then you can get that 40th. So you do, and you get in the 10 races, you start and park it, finish 40th in each one, you take all of that money you get from those races, pour them into the engine and development for like one race, usually a super speedway race, and that'll allow you to be a little bit more competitive, get maybe a top 20, maybe a top 15 finish in that race, and earn money that way. And in those situations, you really just need the best driver for that kind of track and that kind of situation. I say all that to say this. All the way up through NASCAR, especially in the early days, road courses were not really given a lot of respect. There were two on the schedule, Watkins Glen and Sonoma, also known as Infineon Raceway. And really, nobody took those things too seriously. I mean, they wanted to win, but it wasn't, these guys were like, we're oval drivers. Who cares? So what people started to realize, the smaller teams started to realize is instead of just having an oval driver in their car, even though they're on inferior equipment, let's go find some of these guys that race Formula One. Let's go find some of these guys that race V8 supercars. and do road racing for a living at a high level, and put them in, even though it's inferior equipment, they're good enough drivers to make up for that. And there was born this thing called road course ringers. So during our intro, you hear that guy talking about wanting to beat Greg Biffle's ass. That's actually Boris Said. He is a well-known road racer, and he is a road course ringer. Some guys came in like Juan Pablo Montoya, right? That's a IndyCar Formula One champion, maybe one of the most respected road drivers in the world. And he came over and competed full-time in NASCAR for multiple seasons. So while he wasn't as a ringer, the whole point is COTA, road courses as a whole, provide opportunities for these drivers and other disciplines to come and experience, A, what NASCAR is all about, B, while also giving the fans of those sports a chance to look at NASCAR, have a guy to cheer for, and then also for NASCAR to kind of have some good competition on those races. So there's a couple really high-profile guys that are going to be racing in this weekend's race. I figured we'd go through them and talk a bit about them. So Kimi Iceman Raikkonen is a 2007 Formula One champion. There he is in a Ferrari for F1 in the bottom left. He's got 21 wins in Formula One, 103 podiums. That's top threes. And he will be driving, actually this is the second time because he raced in it last year at Watkins Glen, driving the 91, and this is going to be built out for Trackhouse racing. Kimi, I know Kimi has raced that race, and I know early in the 2000s he actually did an oval race in the trucks. And he actually struggled heavily to keep that thing straight. But Kimi is one of the most respected drivers in the world. He's absolutely hilarious on the mic. So if you do those things where you listen to the NASCAR app on your phone, where you can listen to the scanner audio, the 91 might be very funny, just because of that. I think he's Finnish. So you have the accent, and just they're very dry humor. It's very, very funny. So Kimi will be driving 91. If you're wondering what kind of level of talent that car is, his teammates are going to be Ross Chastain, who we were just talking about, and Daniel Suarez. Ross Chastain won this race at COTA last year. Daniel Suarez was on the front row and dominated the entire first stage. So they've got the setup, they've got the car, and they've got the experience, and Kimi is, without a doubt, the more prestigious road racer than both Suarez and Chastain. So I would say, depending on where he qualifies, Kimi is an underdog for sure that could sneak out a top five, maybe even a win.
It's a name I've actually heard before.
Really?
I've heard of him. I think he was on. I think he ran a road course last year, but
he did Watkins Glen.
That paint scheme is fire.
Listen, those boys don't miss.
That paint scheme is sick.
Those boys do not miss at Trackhouse. Every scheme they got, dude. They have a pink car with Tootsies on it, and it somehow looks cool.
Yes. That's it. That scheme right there is super sick. I'm excited to see this guy drive on Sunday for sure.
Dude, again, one of the things, especially now, that didn't happen last year is every car on the course has an in-car camera now. So if you're wondering, who do I watch? Who's some people to look for? Look at how they are at the beginning of the race. Are they struggling? And then how does he adjust? Because, again, these are the top footwork guys in the world. So very, very high-level drivers. Also racing is going to be Jenson Button. So Jenson Button was also a Formula One champion. He won 2 years after Kimi in 2009. He also is a Super GT 500 champion. Jenson is going to be driving the number 15 for Rick Ware Racing, but it's going to be a car that's prepped by Stuart Haas Racing under the Mobil 1 sponsorship. And one cool thing about Jenson Button, so I'm sure you guys have heard through the works, this Garage 56, right? So NASCAR has an entry in the Le Mans 24-hour race, the endurance race, and it is a modified version of the next-gen car, and they're going to be racing that. It's an open class. They're not expected to compete against, all the other cars, but it'll be interesting to see how that competes. Jenson is going to be one of the 3 drivers on that team. My understanding is there's Jenson Button, Mike Rockefeller, I think is the name, and then, of course, Jimmy Johnson. So he is a 56 driver, or Garage 56 driver for NASCAR. So, again, Rick Ware Racing, though, that is a full step down, maybe even 2 steps down. We're talking about a Corey LaJoie level car. He's really going to have to drive the wheels off of this thing. The Stuart Haas prepped portion of this isn't exactly giving me confidence, given how Stewart
Me
Haas has
neither.
been drinking. And we'll get to like Briscoe and how that team is on road course races. Obviously, Tony Stewart was one of the best road course racers that was on the full-time NASCAR roster through the 2000s. But again, Jensen is very respected. Again, a Formula One champion, top tier of drivers. But he's gonna got it unless he qualifies or he's got some sauce nobody's expecting. He's got his hands full with that 15.
Love seeing the Mobile One car anytime they put that back out there. That's just such a classic.
Mm-hmm. And Kevin Harvick will be in a Mobile One car this weekend as well, I believe. So
yeah, I was going to say that's Harvick's one of the first names I think of, at least in recent years,
right.
when I think of that Mobile One scheme.
Right. But I mean, I think the W's across the board on the two schemes, Kimmy's scheme and Jensen's scheme, pretty good stuff.
It's cool, but I don't get the nostalgia of the Mobile One thing. I mean, I guess that's
just the
a
sponsor itself. Yeah.
But that 91 cars.
Yeah.
For my money, it's way cooler than that
Yeah,
one.
the Trackhouse guys are sick. So this is the guy I am most excited for the weekend. This is Jordan Taylor. He is the two-time WeatherTech Sports Car Champion. He's done it once in the Prototype Series and once in the GTLMs he drives for Corvette. He has won the 24 Hours of Daytona. He won it in 2017. His teammate was his brother Ricky Taylor, one more guy, and then Jeff Gordon. He is a road racing coach for Hendrick Motorsports. So he's, again, just that. He's in charge of getting these guys used to the tracks, what best lines to run. And he's actually going to be filling in for Josh Berry and Chase Elliott in the 9 this weekend. So now we have a guy who, A, is a high-caliber driver, with experience at this track and experience as a road racer, as a champion in some of the highest series. But not only that, he's in a championship level car. Okay, that 9 and the setups they've got and the experience they got road course racing, Chase Elliott is the best road course racer in NASCAR's full-time folks. So I think the expectation is for Jordan Taylor to go up there and finish top 5. So he's got.
What is Rodney Sandstorm?
So it is Jordan Taylor's alter ego. He has an alter ego.
This is his Chris Gaines.
He has got an alter ego where he is a 1990s Jeff Gordon NASCAR fan. So he's got the jorts and the Velcro white shoes and the white socks and the old DuPont jacket and the mustache. And he once crashed I think he once crashed like the Fox booth and the broadcast as Rodney Sandstorm, and they didn't know, like Darrell Waltrip didn't know what was going on. They like called security. It was a whole big thing. He is absolutely hilarious, is well known in the NASCAR. He's just a goofball. And I think is a very fun personality. I'm sure there's gonna be plenty of stuff that happens over the weekend showcasing Jordan Taylor or Rodney Sandstorm. I wonder who he's gonna race as. If they were to put Sandstorm on the car, I'd lose it. I would absolutely lose it.
That's funny.
but he is going to be driving the Universe 9. I'm a big fan of this scheme. I think that's I don't know if it's like a tealish, greenish, is really, really clean. But yeah, really excited for this one. I don't know if he gets an opportunity to race in this race if Chase Elliott is not injured. So there is a silver lining to the unfortunate injury because, I've never seen a ringer in a car this good. Never.
I'm just stunned that you said this is the guy you're most excited about.
Oh, I mean, I'm just so I got a guy.
You said,
are you though?
Yes.
Are you?
Because of his personality and because I've never seen a road course ring. I mean, the old Marcus Ambrose is what it reminds me of because Marcus Ambrose drove the 9, but not for Hendrick. You know, Marcus Ambrose is an Australian V8 supercar guy, and he come in and he was dominating races. He was racing up front, and it was far inferior gear. Even Kevin Harvick himself said that if Marcus Ambrose had B-tier equipment, he'd be a NASCAR champion. He is extremely respected. These guys are extremely respected in this sport. So I've never seen a guy get an opportunity in legit a championship caliber car that's racing for owner points, right? It's not it's a chartered ride. They're going to finish first. They have no other reason to not push for a win with Jordan Taylor, and he's one of the best to do it. So I'm really excited. But obviously, this next guy has a special place in my heart. and it's Jimmy Johnson. Jimmy Johnson is a former IndyCar driver. He's going to be coming over testing out his skills in the NASCAR realm. 7-time NASCAR Cup champion, 1 road course win in his career. That was at Sonoma. He did race a lot. Following his NASCAR career, he did go to IndyCar. That's him in the bottom right. And he spent a lot more time road racing. Granted, I don't know how that's going to carry over because these cars don't drive the same at all. Another thing Jimmy competes in is the Race of Champions. He spent a lot of time doing, I think they were in like Sweden, or it was like in the snow driving around. So Jimmy spent a lot of time in different disciplines. It's super awesome to see him coming back. He's a NASCAR royalty, and he'll be driving this disgustingly ugly 84, by far the worst scheme of the four ringers.
Oh, is it? I couldn't tell.
It is. I'm hoping that this is a prank. I'm hoping to God they change this, but it is the ugliest car I've ever seen. Is it going to stop me from getting a full poster to put on a wall of it? No, but God, I'm going to hate every second of it.
That is one ugly car. We talked about it last week. I mean, I'm excited to see the famous Jimmy Johnson. Anytime he's on the track, my eyes are going to be on him just because I've heard so much about him and never actually seen it. But my God, that 84 is hideous.
It's hideous. Again, the expectation of Jimmy is to just go out there and have a fun time. He's never done COTA, at least in these cars. I don't know does IndyCar race at COTA?
Yes, they do.
Okay, so he's done. Yeah. I know we're going to get to that later, but so I'm sure he's done it in the Indy cars, but I don't know. I don't know, and I'm not having a lot of expectation. Again, Legacy Motor Club. They're down there. They're at the sea level right now. Those guys are not racing well by any means. So, and then the final thing I want to talk about is I'm going to call them the right turn rednecks. I know they're not all country boys, but this is NASCAR, so we can do it. So these are those are the guys that you want to watch for just the pure factor of those are the best guys behind the wheel this weekend. Whether or not they're going to have the learning curve, are they going to be able to get used to the stock cars that these guys race every week? We'll find out. But here are the guys that I'm fully expecting to, throughout the road courses this year, shine. So obviously Chase Elliott, I talked about him. He's out this race. We just talked about that. But anytime there's a road course race and you're putting money on who's going to win that race, Chase Elliott is a name you want to put some money on. Because and bets, hold on, gamble. With maturity and know your limits. Before I start telling people to bet, get my ass in trouble.
Gamble responsibly, folks.
Yeah, there you go. Gamble responsibly. But Chase
never
Elliott,
bet what you can't afford to lose.
Correct. AJ Allmendinger is a name that's AJ Allmendinger's been around racing NASCAR racing for a long time, but his roots are in sports car racing. He won Indy's road course in 2021 as actually he was on a part-time schedule. And he was battling for the win. We're going to watch the COTA race from last year, the restart. So he drives the 16 for Colleague Racing. That is a underfunded car, but AJ, he's always up front. He always finishes in like the top 5 in these road courses. So AJ Allmendinger is a fun guy to watch. The Checkhouse boys, right? Daniel Suarez, front row at COTA last year, and he won Sonoma. Ross Chastain won this race last year. So those are guys that, along with Kimmy, are going to be a fun watch. And, of course, their paint schemes are going to be fucking beautiful. Tyler Reddick, he broke through last year, and he won 2 road course races. He won Road to America, and he won the Indy road course. So we were talking about Reddick earlier, Jeff, and he's coming off of a top 5 finish at Phoenix. And then, of course, the finish this past weekend. So it looks like he's getting really confident behind the wheel, and he's really smooth at these kind of tracks. He was running top 3 with 5 laps to go at COTA last year. And then, of course, Christopher Bell, the top Toyota in the field right now. We're not doing power rankings this week, but I'll just go ahead and give it away. I've already moved him up to 3. He's driving like a madman. He drove through the field multiple times last week at Atlanta. He's got 4 career wins. 2 of them are road courses. Both of them are at Robles, though, at the Daytona road course. And then the Charlotte, he hasn't won it like the other ones, but I don't think that matters. It's all the same skill set. So Christopher Bell's going to be a guy to watch out for. So that's my Jeff. You got any other guys you know of that are kind of road course warriors? I can't think of any.
As far as right now, this is pretty much the move. I mean,
right.
I think as far as your more, your full time like regular NASCAR guys that you're going to be keeping eyes on, it's definitely going to be a mix between Suarez, Reddick, Bell. You know, we'll see where Chastain goes. I mean, he showed that he's got chops at road courses last year, so we'll see what happens. I think from a more traditional perspective with Elliott out, we're more so going to be looking at Suarez, Reddick, and Bell and kind of seeing what that battle looks like and seeing how qualifying goes. But I think as far as who's going to really, you know, be button heads and you know, fighting for this win in regards to favorites, it's going to be Suarez, Reddick, and Bell.
I've got one final name. This man was not only leading this race with 20 laps to go was a third of the race, right? But he led this race last year. He's led road courses. He's won multiple road courses in the Xfinity Series. Last year, while running third on a restart, he got bumped by Allmendinger, and it knocked him out of the track, off the track. And the penalty at that is a pass through on the green, so it literally immediately killed him. Immediately killed his chances. But Chase Briscoe looked fantastic at COTA last year. So I'm not trying to get you too hyped, Corey, but Chase Briscoe was dominating this race. He was the only car that was able to catch Ross Chastain and pass him. And he did it multiple times.
Somebody also not unfamiliar with penalty racing on road courses is Chase Briscoe as well.
That's funny, John. I have officially reached Missouri status with Chase Briscoe. Show me, bro.
Show me.
I'll believe it when I see it.
Well,
man.
you just think about it. We've seen how well he is at tracks where you downshift. Like, that's his game. Like, there's just something about his ability to get through the gears, control the car at high revs, and just in general, that just seems to be something. I don't know why, and I don't know what makes his driving style any different, but it just seems like every track where we downshift, he's up there in the front mixing it up, right? Martinsville, well, I don't even know if they really shift at Martinsville because of the gear ratio, but like, yeah, I mean, he's there. Phoenix, he's there. And road courses, he's there also. He's extremely aggressive, and that's what you need at these road courses, because when we watch these restarts here in a little bit, y'all are going to find out real quick. There's no room for, you get the car in there, or don't get the car in there. That's the difference between 5th and 15th coming out of turn 1, because it's chaos.
Get fast or get wrecked. That is the road course motto in NASCAR, and it's fun. So I think with that, why don't we lead into some info here about COTA, and let's talk about the track itself, some history and some information that we got here. And this will be part of the modified history lane that we've got. So I've got some fast facts about it. This track was constructed in 2012, and it's 3.4 miles long. It is utilized and has been utilized traditionally by a lot of other circuits. NASCAR is actually new to the pack when it comes to that. Same with IndyCar. It's actually one of the least domestic road courses that we're seeing right now, surprisingly enough. But being that the track's still young, it's still developing some of its history. But for the other circuits out there, there's definitely a history that's been developing, and I hope to see NASCAR kind of develop its own stories and develop its own history with it. So with that, I've got some more information here. So the fastest lap in a car on this track is a minute 36.169 by Charles Leclerc in an F1 car in 2019. Fastest lap on a bike. And I want to get into that because this is a known traditional, awesome MotoGP track. And I've got some video to add to that. But that fastest lap is from, I hope I don't butcher this name, I believe it's Enea Bastianini at 2 minutes 3 seconds, 0.521. Most successful F1 driver at COTA is Lewis Hamilton with 5 podiums. Most successful MotoGP rider at COTA is Marc Marquez with 7 wins. It is the home of the U.S. Grand Prix for F1 since it's opened, which was 2012. It's the home of the Grand Prix of the Americas for MotoGP since 2013. IndyCar started racing there in 2019 with a gap for all of these circuits in 2020. And the first NASCAR race took place in 2021 with the Texas Grand Prix. Mm-hmm. So one of the things that I want to lead into with that, something that we don't normally talk about, but I think it's important given the theme of where we are, is MotoGP is pretty significant here in this track. And one of the guys that we're going to watch here is Marc Marquez. This guy is known as the king of COTA. He has won this race 7 times in the short time that this track has existed. And I made sure to get Finn a couple of clips for this one. So we got this with some timestamps, and I also sent you another vid with timestamps on that one as well, so we can get into it. But what you're watching right here, this one here is for 2021. You watch Marquez. He started 3, qualified 3, and you watch him move, get
He's
inside.
so much lower than everybody else. Holy shit!
Oh, it's insane. You can see the differences far and away in his ability to make moves here. And this is where this gets fun. If you've never watched MotoGP, you think NASCAR, these cars get close to each other. This is knee on wheel close. This is, we are rubbing thighs as we are passing each other, getting inside of each other on these tracks. You know, and we're talking about some of these guys are coming up to on 200 miles an hour pretty easily when you get up on some of these straightaways.
Yeah.
The speed is absolutely insane. So Marquez is here in the 93.
Wasn't ready for that.
We got a good
These
butt shot
guys
here.
are absolutely insane.
Yes. And
what is wrong with you?
It is nuts, man. And the margins, the margins on these turns and the threading the needle on making sure that you are on the right line for these laps is incredible. I mean, the impeccable skill that these guys have to just get right in there on a sliver of track to get by somebody or to edge out an extra 1/10 of a second on a lap is nuts. Right. So right now we're seeing Marquez.
It's so much easier to get underneath them too. Yeah, to like dive bomb and stuff. Well, not really
There's
dive
a lot
bombing.
Of weaves.
Yeah,
exactly. There's a lot of weaving, a lot of dive bombing. We get a slow-mo replay of him coming here. You catch a lot of this when you see their front wheels coming up off the ground. And right now, what you just saw is Marquez taking this lead, getting up to a 2-second margin, and never looking back. As much as people wanted to, you know, are sitting there watching this gap, and they're like, oh, is he going to gain on him? Is he going to gain? He doesn't. Spoiler alert. And Marquez takes this one and just kills it. So for the sake of also keeping things a little more exciting with that, the other clip that I did is from something that kind of exemplifies a little more of his prowess on this track in particular. In the next clip that I want to bring up. So the clip that we're watching here, you'll see he's starting 9th. He disastrously loses his throttle and drops to 24th place. As you can see here, as they come into turn 1. And they're getting going. One thing that I really think is cool about this video in particular too is you get the helmet cam, so you're getting to see that POV of him trying to fight his way up to the front here. So I wanted to highlight this first 20 seconds because it shows him getting that initial drop to the back and facing that first start of adversity. And now he's sitting here at 23rd and he's trying to kind of battle his way up. And you know, in his head, he's going, what the hell am I going to do? You know, how am I going to get back after having the start that he had? So when we get to the next part, as we kind of watch the beauty of these guys kind of weave through and find their lines and get their path here.
He outbreaks the shit out of these guys.
Mm-hmm. So he's
That
already
turn
moved
is
up to
crazy.
21. The next timestamp I had was at buck 13.
Well, we're already there.
All right. So what we're seeing right now is he's already starting to move his way up. He's starting to advance. He's starting to get into the middle of the pack. And we've already seen his ability to outbrake, outshift, and
There's 4 cars right there.
and take guys 2, 3, 4 at a time. Yes.
So is he a championship? Oh, hello. Is he a championship contender type, or is this just his track?
Yes.
Okay.
But it's both.
So
he is
column A and column B.
Exactly. So I mean, you're watching one of the greater ones to do it as far as modern MotoGP. So he's fought right now. We see him get up to 18th, and so the next stamp that I had this one on was 320. So because we're gonna see, because he'll battle a little bit. So he's moved his way up. He's up to 14th now. Now he's gonna start making his way up. Now he's going to start eyeballing a little bit more of the front of the pack. And this is also something to keep an eye on here is the drafting on these bikes is a whole lot different because that window is a lot thinner. But we see, again, just expert braking, trying to find his way in. As he tries to get inside, people have kind of figured him out just a little bit. We get the other view. And you can really see how close things are going to start getting here very shortly.
So again, and for everybody watching, right? Like, obviously we're not getting like the best view of these turns, but these are going to be sharp hairpin turns. And these bikes are close together. Throw in 3 stock cars side by side. It's a beautiful course too.
It's gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks
absolutely gorgeous.
Looks really nice for sure.
Yeah. So now he's fought. So in the start of this clip, he started at 18th. He's moved his way up. He's getting up towards 10th. And he's now cracked the top 10. He's now past number 10. The next timestamp that I had, and this would be the last one, was at 4:10. So he's moved his way up to 8th. He's moved his way up to 7th.
Yeah.
And this is his pursuit to get to where he finishes the race at 6th. So this is him trying to get in. He's battling a little bit. Finds his way up, gets to 6th now. They kind of go head to head a little bit. That was so close to a wreck. It's not even funny as he started to get it. Someone started to get into his back. And then this is when he goes in to start pulling away, and then he's not going to look back after he gets to 6. He will finish at 6. But I wanted to highlight this clip and highlight this race and the last one to show somebody who knows this track and runs this track extremely well. And somebody who, and I wanted to show not just, here's him dominating for, an entire race. This last one, I wanted to show his ability to go from 9th to 24th to 6th and to end it. It's just awesome. I don't know. COTA is a fun track, and it's fun for multiple different circuits. I mean, Lewis Hamilton's notorious for the F1 fans out there. He's pulled 5 podiums at this track, so he is very, very at home racing at COTA as well. So that's the little bit of a vacation from some of the things that we normally talk about. I appreciate y'all humoring me on that.
Yeah, no, I mean we're here to watch a bit, and that's sick. The whole point of what we're trying to do here, and especially this weekend, and of course Memorial Day weekend, is the crossover, right? Because that's the greatest day in racing, where we go Monaco, Indy 500, Coke 600. We're going to be really big on that time frame, on watching those different races, and then at the same time for this, like when we race on the same tracks that these other courses race at, it's really cool to see the differences. So one thing I wanted to do, though, is, again, we've already kind of talked about, and we've seen a little bit of racing on the track, but this is a good breakdown during the race last year of what the track sectors look like. So here's Sector 1, where they're coming to the start-finish line. And the first thing to notice is this extremely wide turn 1, right? One of the things, so Jeff, you got to talk a little bit about what this track, when it was made and the significance of it. One, they designed different parts of the track to mimic different turns of other racetracks in real life. I don't know them, so that's something to go Google and find yourself. But that's the first thing. Second, the creators of the track wanted to make sure that parts of the track, especially going into the corners, were wide to encourage different lanes. So as you can see here, the start-finish line goes, and then it widens out as we approach this hairpin turn. That's to allow the cars to spread out, to get side-by-side on corner entry, because if you can get a run on the outside lane, the next turn is this kind of right-hander as we flow into the S's, right? So if you can get on the outside of a guy there, because it's a very sharp angle. And one of the things I wanted to point it out is it's actually Jenson Button, when he was in F1, when the track first came out. He made a statement saying that it's actually, you really don't even want to start on the pole. You want to start outside pole, because the angle to get your car turned here is not preferred. So I think that's one of the reasons I want to talk about this. We're bringing the choose rule back, right? Choose rule is something that exists on all the other tracks, just not road courses, and whereas everybody on the racetrack gets to choose if they want the outside lane or the inside lane. And you have to choose. It'll be before the start-finish line. It'll come out here. There'll be a choose cone. They'll either go left or right, and that'll determine the lineup. So expect to see that become a factor. Do you want the leader on the restart? Do you want the first inside lane with this really, really tight turn, or do you prefer the outside lane? Maybe you get the jump, beat the man around the corner, and then you've got the preferred line as we head downhill to the right-hander through the S's. You know what I'm saying? So that's Sector 1 here as we're going through. Again, these S's are very, very high speed. When you watch them going through, they're flipping. You're trying to make these as straight as possible. So that's Sector 1 for this part.
Sector 1 from start.
then I guess I don't need to require it on them because they weren't talking about it. They're just flying through it. Then you come through here and you have a nice straight, and then again, it opens up. If you can see at the top of the screen, it opens up wide again to allow everybody to get into this hairpin where we start flying. These cars are screaming down this part of the track. So again, another turn that's greater than 90 degrees. This left-hander right here, where the Texas flag is. It gets wide. There's going to be you see where the red and the white is of the flag. That's actually all runoff area. So when they turn that corner, they're going to be sprayed white on that before they get back in line. And they approach this more technical section that's a lot more braking. And then this little, I don't know if they call it the horseshoe. I feel like in Texas with a track that looks like this, you got to call that the horseshoe, right?
It feels fitting, doesn't it?
I mean, right?
Absolutely.
So we'll call this the fucking horseshoe. They are ripping. You're just sliding the car, just trying to get grip, because that is a very, very fast section, because it almost has 2 apexes, right? Then you come down here into this 90-degree left-handed turn, and then another left-hand turn here. Again, a lot of area for runoff, and I think that might even be gravel out there, but a lot of room, and then we're going to have a race to start-finish line. So I think it would be best if we went and we watched the final restart of this. Why don't we? Let's set the stage here for everybody watching. On the outside, we've got the Ross Chastain 1 car. Right next to him is Tyler Reddick in the 8, who drives the 45 now. Behind them is, oh, look at that, Alex Bowman runs in the front. And AJ Allmendinger, like I mentioned earlier, in a Kaulig car. He's in the inferior equipment, but he is, out of these 4, the most skilled road course racer. Then we've got Chase Elliott in the 9, and our man Ryan Blaney right there in 6. So there's our top 6. These are the guys battling it out as they approach the start-finish line.
Overtime, sponsored by Credit One Bank.
So again, the thing to notice here is as they fan out here to get down into this turn 1, this angle of it's crazy.
That is insane. They're 5 wide.
They're 5 wide.
He does.
So 16 gets outside, but again, it's not the preferred lane. There's some bump in there.
Allmendinger trying to force the issue to the inside. Nothing there.
So now we're heading down to those S's, right?
Reddick, side by side.
And that's why we call them the S's. They're serpentine, baby. Serpentine.
Wrong move.
Not really a passing section.
He had to get into him a little bit. He leaned on him, but if he didn't, he was going to be swallowed up. He'd have been 4th right there. Aggressive move.
There's Justin Marks. He runs Trackhouse. I don't know why they're focused in on him so much. I get his guys winning, but
well, this is before they this was before they'd had their first win, right?
Right. But there's racing going on. Here's Allmendinger getting under the 8 to one of the hairpins.
And he has second over Reddick and Bowman.
We got a little bit of a history lane here. To watch the last race. First one was a monsoon.
Yeah, that's another weird thing about road courses. They'll drive in the rain.
That was a controversial race when they did that, and the rain was happening. There were a lot of folks that weren't necessarily too happy with the condition of the track in comparison to the way NASCAR kind of let that run.
Ooh, sliding it, and Bowman gets around it.
Sliding.
Run your smooth lap. Make AJ have to do all the work. AJ's the one that's going to have
to. I think this is now that horseshoe section I was talking about. And we'll look at him. You're just gassing it. You're just trying to get this thing around this bad boy. It's the never-ending turn. And then into the last 2 left-handers.
I'm anxious and excited for him, and I think again, just like
a lot of runoff there.
Sending it.
He did a great job.
And then back to start. So here we go. Here's the final. The final lap of this race, you've got the 16 trying to catch the 1.
Everything's in front of him. Don't look at that mirror. Don't worry about anything behind. Just run your lap right now.
Chase Briscoe has a flat tire. 1 lap to go.
Chase Briscoe has a flat.
Stunning. Something's wrong with Briscoe's car. Weird.
The race will be over.
All right, so here's turn 1. That left hairpin into the downhill right-hander as we approach the S's.
Allmendinger 3/4 of a second back.
Guys, unless the 48 gets close, just leave them alone here.
That's Allmendinger's radio.
And that's the other thing in road courses. Leads like this are not safe.
Yeah.
You know, in an oval, you're like, ooh, he's not catching them. But obviously, you've got to be good for a minute and a half.
To the leader.
Hell,
Well, it's
two
a lot
minutes.
more about crafting that perfect lap over and over and over again.
Get back to the gas, not slipping the tire. That has been his strong suit.
AJ's
Like, there's a huge amount there covered up.
Continues. And he was running fifth. I was just fixing to say the rebound of Joe Gibbs. Here it comes. The last ditch effort dive bomb.
Here's that long straight. Absolutely
160
ripping.
miles an hour. Down this back straightaway to turn 12 and then down to 45 miles an hour right here.
Much ground AJ Allmendinger gains right there.
But Chastain didn't miss the apex.
He's on him.
Allmendinger's there.
Opening door up.
Oh boy.
He's so
Oh,
close.
I thought that was it.
Right here.
Nope. Oh, he's going to use
Nope, there it
So
is.
here he gives a
There it
little
is.
punt.
Oh, sent it.
AJ moved
Is he
it.
going to get moved
Chastain
back?
comes back.
This was before any of the controversy with Chastain, too. And watch this from Bowman.
Bowman's under him.
Oh my God.
Chastain's going to have to move them both.
And then watch Chastain just completely bucks 16 into the 48.
Off the bumper of Chastain.
16 in the gravel, 48 finishes second, and the Watermelon Man himself.
Gets his first dub.
Is that fair play? That's going to be another thing that I talked to with my F1 buddies. And is that if that happens in F1, you're penalized.
Yeah.
You're penalized. There's no shot they let that shit happen. But that's what NASCAR road course racing looks like, man. It's so good.
F1 will make you give a position back. That
Right.
is like, they do not mess around. Like, if you go and just like go too aggressive on a thing where you take away the potential for racing for the position, F1 will take that position back. They do not mess around with that.
Absolutely.
This track is going to be absolutely nuts. And one of the it was funny because I was watching that highlight video and I'm watching the end of it, and I wrote in a question mark. Was this the first instance of someone getting chastained? And it's like, no, I don't really think so. I mean, they were honestly, Allmendinger made the first move, right? So it's kind of like,
well, Allmendinger
I think,
is a very fiery guy. So following this, AJ was not happy. They were talking about how they're going to get it back to him. But this was the first time where I remember there was some controversy around the one car.
Yeah.
You know, up until then, everything had looked good. He had raced well. He hadn't hit anybody. None of the things with Denny had happened yet. That was probably the very first. But honestly, he got punted in the turn before, right? A couple turns before. Yep. So in his mind, you know, the only person that he kind of screwed over was Bowman. But Bowman finished second. Finished second. So, you know, I didn't care. I just thought it was cool to see Bowman ride in the top three at a road course. That is not his forte. Sure. He's not a road course guy. He had passed Chase Elliott multiple times in that race. So, now we're not quite ready to give him road course ringer status just yet. But looking forward a little bit now that we've learned about the race and things like that. We talked about the choose cone. One of the things I want to mention is what's really cool. Again, if you do the scanner through the race, normally NASCAR stock cars don't have don't have mirrors on the side. You have the one mirror in the top, and they actually have digital dashes now. So there's like a camera in the back of the car, but you don't really know who's next to you. Everything's a blind spot outside of like that. You know, so in ovals, what'll happen is they'll have a guy at the very, very top, and that's the spotter, and they're looking down and they're saying, "All right, you got a guy on your bumper. That's what Door Bumper Clears podcast name. That's the spotter terminology because they're all spotters that do a podcast together. They say, hey, he's at your door, he's at your bumper. All right, you're clear. You can now go where you want to go, or you're 2 wide, you're 3 wide, and they're giving information. But at this track, because it's not an oval and there's no elevated areas to look. They actually run multiple spotters. So you'll have multiple spotters that are in charge of certain sections, and there's actually some sections of the racetrack that are blind to spotters. So it's literally just up to the drivers. So that's something to keep in mind too. It's an interesting tidbit. And then 2, there's no more stage caution breaks at road courses. So we have the stages, and we know that's heavy criticism towards NASCAR because it kills race-long strategy. When do you fuel? When do you take tires? When do you stretch fuel? How long, you want to make this a 4-stop race, a 5-stop race? What do you want to do, right? What are the things that you could do? You're always limited because you know a caution is coming later in the race at the stages, So you only can do strategy for a stage long because everybody's going to get tires and everything's going to kind of reset. Well, that's gone.
Right.
And why is that gone? So,
because pacing laps take half an hour.
yes. One, because pacing laps take forever. You thought the commercials were bad then. Now, wait till you find out. But second, so there's what it does is while I don't think I think NASCAR wants to keep stages and would like to. The issue is when you go down. So you're coming back to the stage, and you know that at the stage everybody's going to pit, right? And you know everybody's going to hit pit road, get new tires. So if you finish a stage in first, you know that you're going to be going into the pits in first, and there's a high likelihood that you're going to be coming out in first, right? Or at least in the top front. At road courses, what will happen is people will make a decision. Near the end of a stage, they'll say, hey, I'm either going to race for the stage win, or I'm going to pit now, 2 laps before the stage ends, right? They'll come down pit road. And what that does is now they get the new tires and everything. They run that last lap, nice and cruise, stage ends, and all of those leaders that didn't pit have to now go pit for tires and fuel. So that what ends up happening is the first place car that won the stage comes out, and they're starting 20th to start stage 2. And so now you have a situation where the top cars, the fastest cars in this race, are starting 20th. And that's what happened to Daniel Suarez last year. He started second, took the lead from Blaney, and then nobody ever touched him again, and then he's in 20th place. Why? Because of a weird strategy, because they know that a determined caution is coming out. And why is this something that's effective on road courses versus ovals? Well, at ovals, you'd get lapped. So if you tried to pit a lap early before a stage break, you'd get lapped, and then it doesn't matter. They throw the caution, I go pit, you might get your lap back, but is that really worth whatever the risk is for you staying out? No, it's not. You would just maintain your position like everybody else does. But at road course races, you can't, like, you could come down pit and come out, and they're not even going to be close to lapping you, and that's why this works, because you're down in position, but the cautions don't account for distance behind the leader. So it's a weird thing, but I'm really happy with it, because I think this is now going to benefit the true road racers.
For sure.
No gimmicks to get up front and have good track position. You're going to have to drive through the field on Sunday if you want a chance to win this race. And that's where the ringers, I think, stand more of a chance, you know. So yep. I'm very interested in that realm. But outside of that, do you have anything to add for COTA as a track, Jeff, or are we ready for predictions?
I think we're about ready for predictions. I mean, I say this is going to be interesting, and I think that for anybody that's coming into this maybe as their first road course race, something to keep in mind. It's like I was mentioning before. You have to watch your driver and how they can maintain consistency. It's very important at a road course for a driver to be able to we talk about finding lines, finding lanes in your ovals and stuff like that. On a road course, it's much more important to do what drivers will say. They want that perfect lap. And you have to do that over and over and over again. And we were talking about the gaps between 1 and 2 and, or between 1 and 3 in a, on a road course, and how that's not as safe as it might be on an oval when you get into clean air, because it's not the same. Right. On an oval, clean air can be everything, and you can jump up in front. On a road course, yeah, you can get up in front, you can get clean air, but that's not really the factor. The factor is, can you maintain the same thing that you did on that last record lap that you did last time? Can you stay on the same lane?
Right.
Exactly. Can you be here on, 10 lap old tires and still maintain that same line that you did that put you up to the front?
Absolutely.
There's a certain level. There's a different skill set that comes to racing these courses.
Braking zone, right? Like understanding braking zones and hitting your braking zone when a guy's breathing down your neck and the entire bumper is filling up your entire digital dash, and you're just nervous. So, I mean, we saw that with Ross, right? He eventually got caught because AJ Allmendinger is just better at braking and getting through the gears, up to speed, turning the right time, being more consistent. So, it's going to be chaos. It's like Phoenix plus road course racing, plus full of the first race since 2016 or something, where there's no predetermined cautions. A caution will only occur if there's a wreck that, and it's a road course. So even just a guy spinning isn't a caution now. We're talking fuel on the track, a car stop that has to be towed, or enough debris on the track to cause an issue that can't be cleared. So
yeah, because how far are the guys from there? That's the other thing to keep in mind is are the other drivers
3.5 miles?
Right.
Exactly. If the other drivers are 2 miles away and all you got to do is take some rubble off the track, that's not drawing a yellow flag.
So, yeah, I'm super excited. So I got a
I
bunch of
am
guys.
too.
I hope it doesn't rain again because I got a bunch of buddies that watch other disciplines of driving that are going to be watching this race because of all the F1 guys. So it better not be a dud.
No, this should be good. I'm excited to see it. I think it's going to be fun.
Oh yeah.
But I think I think it's time we get into predictions. So I think I started it off last week. So Finn, why don't you kick us off with predictions this
99.
week? 99, Daniel Suarez.
I'm going to go Daniel Suarez. Corey, if I had to choose a race last year that put Corey to sleep, it was Sonoma. Because it's not like this track. Sonoma is a driver's course, and it is extremely hard to pass. There is not a lot of lanes. Suarez was on the pole last year, or outside pole last year. He actually ran the fastest qualifying lap, but that was in Q1. In Q2, he was a little bit slower than Blaney. I think he slipped up or something. So, he's got great skill. He understands this track. He dominated the entire first stage. Thinking about last year, if he had no cautions, no stage cautions, and he would have just been able to continue to build that lead through quality pit stops and continue to build a lead, I don't know if there's anybody in good enough gear that's not named Chase Elliott that could really compete with how good Daniel Suarez is a road course racer right now. So I'm going to go with the 99, lock that in.
Gotcha. Corey, what do you got?
Well, I'm not as Finn kind of mentioned, I'm not the road course guy, right? So I'm super, super excited about this one. I didn't watch COTA last year.
Right.
My first race I watched last year was Richmond. So this is my full time around the sun getting to watch the very, very last race that I've not seen yet. That being said, I'm going to go with one of the ringers and the guy with and Jeff's going to laugh, the greatest NASCAR name in the history of NASCAR. AJ Allmendinger. If there's a better name out there in the history of NASCAR, you bring it,
right?
Because it does not sound more like NASCAR than AJ Allmendinger. The guy is known for his ability to drive these road courses. I think he's a full-time participant this year.
He is now. Long story short, he used to drive for Michael Waltrip Racing way back in the mid-2000s. They were back of the pack team, whatever. And then he's worked his way back up through the Xfinity Series, dominated there, almost won a championship, ran part-time for Colleague, and then now he's full-time this year. So, that's a great choice.
I'm taking Allmendinger. I think we saw there in that clip that he was fighting for it at the end, and he caught the shit end of the stick of the first ever Chastaining on national television. And I bet that doesn't happen again. I think if he had it all to do over, he's winning that race, and I think he's going to win this one.
Chaos.
Oh, yeah.
Well, I'll get into my prediction, and I just want to mark that as possibly being one of the first times that it hasn't been a situation where like Corey said his and he stole mine, or I've said it and stole his, that we are on a different base when it comes to predictions for this race. So that should be interesting. My first instinct, low-hanging fruit, easy prediction that I want to go for is Christopher Bell. There's also some heart in that one because I want to see JGR take this one. And I also feel like Christopher Bell is moving. I mean, there are some people that are putting him at number one on their power rankings right now. I mean, I don't see why not. On a tear.
He's so good. He finished third here last year, by the way. He finished third in this race, so he's no chump.
He's a hell of a road course driver. But I have a long shot bet, dark horse guy that I want to throw into this mix that may not necessarily be expected. Ryan Blaney. So hear me out. Here's the thing. Ryan Blaney is that, and it's not even, this isn't for lulz or anything like that. Let me break down some numbers for you that'll actually back this up. Ryan Blaney has 7 wins. One of his wins comes at a road course.
Yeah, but Jimmy, he was like third a mile back, and Jimmy spun Truex and himself like an idiot. And Truex, it's like saying Kyle Busch won the dirt race last year. Yes, he did. But also, he wasn't even close to the two battling. So don't give me Ryan Blaney is good at road courses. I don't want to hear this shit.
It's interesting because as I look at all these numbers and these statistics about that,
now he was on the poll.
I don't see that paragraph-long qualifier there.
He was on the poll last year. So there's let's lead with that, dude. Like lead with that. Don't lead with he got gifted.
Fine, scratch that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
Trust me. We'll scratch this one off.
He will be as scratched as the right side of his car when he puts it into somebody else's car on Sunday.
That's very possible.
About halfway through stage 2.
I have more numbers for you because
you tell, Jeff.
Well, I do. Like,
Jesus
Christ. I don't know. 12 of his road course races, he's been in the top 10. 5 of those road course races, out of those 12, have been top 5s.
He's solid.
So there are numbers there. You can erase what you want there. Ryan Blaney has contended over his 7-year career in a Cup car at road courses. Yeah. So again, I would not have much objection to throwing $1 or $2 on a long shot bet to him.
That is not betting responsibly, chat. That is not betting responsibly.
That's fine. But hey, like I said, that my low hanging fruit, if I'm, gun to my head, who's going to win this race, I'm picking Christopher Bell. If I'm having some fun with it and getting a few giggles out of it, I'm going to go for Ryan Blaney here. So,
there's an article that was put out.
Whatever you'd like, my friend.
It says controlling the cat population in Austin won't be any problems because Ryan Blaney's in town. So if there's any overpopulation,
I was gonna say, where's my sound effect, Jeff?
No worries.
Hey, who finishes higher, Alex Bowman or Ryan Blaney?
It depends on who Ross wrecks first.
Is that? Are we gonna? It depends who Ross wrecks first. Lead us out, Jeff.
Okay, so I think that's gonna. On that note, that's gonna about do it for us this week. So please make sure you check us out on YouTube, Spotify, and iHeartRadio under the name Intentional Wreck. Please like, subscribe, share, and tell your friends about it. Also, submit questions to our mailbag so we can answer those on the podcast. Also, you can find us on Twitter at intwreckpod. That's at INTWRECKPOD. Again, please find us, follow us, talk racing with us, criticize our fantasy picks, do whatever you like. Let's chat about racing. Otherwise, enjoy the race on Sunday, y'all.
Peace. That's the tailgate pitch.